Welcome back to Creative Outcomes. Today we're going to talk about revenue. We're going to talk about reoccurring revenue, where to find it, how to get it, and we've got Craig Baldwin joining the conversation today. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you, Meredith. Great to be with you. Great to meet the audience. My name is Craig Baldwin. I'm one of the founders and partner at Upsourced and tend to focus on much more sales focused topics. So here I am. Let's talk about recurring revenue. Meredith, with that being said, why is it important for our clients or any creative agency to have recurring revenue as a part of their overall mix?
Yeah, I can talk about it a couple of different lenses. One, it's just important from being able to predict revenue side. So when we've got a lot of project-based revenue, the highs are really high and the lows are really low in terms of workload and cash flow. And so when you can have that predictability of reoccurring revenue, it helps you sleep at night as a business owner. The other piece is in an M&A world, which I like to live in as part of my time, and that is helpful from an M&A perspective to drive up the valuation of your business because they're able to, again, see into the future and predict that revenue stream.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had in a past life, I ran a consulting group, and I had a boss that used to say that a lot of our revenue was just little grains of sand. And what he meant by that was we had many small clients, and so it was really hard to determine who would help us build the overall foundation of our business and make it really large and help us grow over time. But I also kind of inferred from that a lot of the relationships we had in this particular organization were project based. And so it's really hard to stack wins and stack revenue, to your point, when you don't have any type of foundation of recurring revenue at all. It means you're only as good as your latest project or the next one you're going to sign. And granted, there are organizations who can do that. They tend to come with very dynamic leadership, people who are really rainmakers and can go out and find new relationships and continue to grow them very quickly, but that's hard to do. That is not what most agencies are capable of doing, nor would I recommend them to go down that path. And so, the more that we can include recurring revenue as a part of the overall mix, to your point, it just makes life easier. And I kind of think about it in terms of wanting like boom bust services. So I want services which are part of my revenue during bust times. That is to say, revenue I can count on, that keeps the lights on, that keeps me my franchise open, if you will. And then I have boom services, which are when things are going really well. If I can sell a massive contract or a speculative service, or we're gonna sell an AI project, right? Whatever that is, I want to have that too because it's always going to be shoots and ladders. I need to be able to take advantage of those moments where things are going really well, but also have protection in case things are going poorly. And that's why I think I encourage a lot of our clients to contemplate their client mix as a portfolio, just like we would in our own personal financial health. You know, you're not going to have all risk assets. You're not going to have all bonds or dividend stocks. You want a healthy mix, right? And I think that's what recurring revenue really represents.
Yeah, totally agree. Um, we were riffing on this a little bit before we started recording, but I think most of our clients would agree with that sentiment. It's like, yeah, obviously, Craig, I want this reoccurring revenue, but I have no idea how to go and get it. I don't know where to start. Like, talk talk me through that as a business owner.
It's really hard. If it's not something you're doing today, you are going to have to think critically about how it attaches to your core services or core um, commercial relationships today if you have the personnel to fulfill those services. And it's not an overnight thing in many cases. So we were talking about a couple different types of businesses. It's very common for us to see creative agencies who have a digital bent. That is to say, they might do a branding project, a logo project, and then they create a .com. Or in some cases, maybe even some type of other digital interface, an app, for example. Well, those are perfect candidates for support and maintenance contract, right? And so that can guarantee the hosting of that particular digital asset. That can guarantee, in some cases, uptime. That can guarantee a support team to do first line or second line of support. And you can charge a decent premium for those services. And especially when you're in the support realm, these are types of services that you want to be making a 60, 70, maybe even 80% margin on, because ultimately it's like an insurance policy. You only really need it if you're the client when something bad happens. And so you're paying for the access, you're paying for the insurance. You should be able, as an agency owner, to drive a higher margin on those services. The dollar amounts may not be large, but you should drive a high margin on them. Other opportunities would be just some type of revolutions or iterations on the project that you created. You could bundle that as a part of support and maintenance and say, hey, you get 15, 20, 100 hours, whatever that may be, given the scale of the project, that are attached to a support and maintenance project. So, or relationship, excuse me. So, in that way, I can actually improve my website if I'm the client and I can use those hours. And if I don't use those hours, in many cases, they're kind of like a reservation. They go away, right? They don't roll over. That's another great way to sort of get a hook into a client and get them to hang around and drive meaningful relationship or revenue, excuse me, on that relationship year over year. Now, if I were in an engineering firm, so if I ran a team full of developers and maybe it's more consultative in nature, or maybe it's more staff augmentation, those types of organizations tend to lend their services for longer time durations. So whether that's a project or maybe the client is actually guiding what the resources will work on, so it's more of a staff aug or managed capacity. Those contracts tend to be 6 months, 1 year, multiple years at a time. I would contemplate those to be recurring revenue, right? You have basically secured cash flows for your business for an extended period of time. And then what tends to happen at the end of those contracts is there's a decision if you want to renew as a client or not, right? I think the key point of emphasis here is that as an agency, I want to be in the reorder business, not the resell business. Because every time I have to go resell, that involves a lot of my internal time. That involves a lot of risk. Will I get the contract? Will I not? And it ultimately just a lot of effort all the way around. Now, if I'm in the reorder business and I say, would you like to secure that team for the next year, client? We'll go ahead and submit a change order, or we'll just copy paste last year's agreement. We'll update the dates. We'll update the budget amount. Let us know when you want us to send it to legal. Man, that's a great place to be, right? So if you can do things like that, that really reduces the sales burden on your team, on your leadership, and allows you to focus on um, uh, higher impact things within your business, if you will. The other area that we kind of see are a lot of advertising or media firms. Those media relationships tend to be longer in duration as well, right? So whatever the fee is that you're tacking on to the media that you're overseeing, if you can win that agency of record title with your client, again, while that may not exclusively result in what we might consider to be recurring revenue, it allows us to stay with a client, hopefully for an extended period of time. We're trying to secure those cash flows for an extended period of time. So there is sort of recurring opportunity there just by having that designation. I would encourage clients who are in that type of business to think about how they could go and win that agency of record or digital AOR designation with their clients. And if you're not working with clients that are large enough to support that, I would seriously consider getting to that point where you could service clients that large, because that's where a lot of the money is.
Yeah. So it sounds like your recommendation, like sit down, look at your portfolio, think critically about what approach is correct for you based on there's no silver bullet or one size fits all, like what works for you and the business that you're currently in, and road mapping this out of how to get to this predictable revenue.
Yeah, exactly. And there never is a silver bullet, right? I mean, ultimately, there is no one answer for any one business, and a leadership team. It's up to them to go and find that answer within the marketplace and with their personnel. But these are ideas to contemplate as any owner is going through this exercise and thinking creatively about, hey, I just sold a new website or I just sold a new brand project. Maybe I can attach performance marketing to it, right? Maybe I can attach inbound marketing to it. And now I have a team set up and the client's paying $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month for my miniature content studio. I'm running a little bit of media. I'm tossing over the fence reports about how we're helping them with their brand exposure. These are all the types of things I would encourage owners to think about critically, and then apply that critical thinking to their business through their lens, and just try, right? At the end of the day, a lot of this is experimentation. There is no right answer out of the gate. There's only an answer that best fits them and their business. So the best thing you can do, in my opinion, is just experiment and see what works.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
What about M&A, Meredith? So you may have mentioned this earlier, but recurring revenue comes up a lot with our clients who are looking to sell, in the process of selling, or even those who are looking to acquire. What does recurring revenue do to your prospects from an M&A perspective?
Yeah, it just increases the multiplier when we're looking at if you're on the sell side, you're going to be valued at a higher price because you have that predictability in revenue, and then the exact opposite of that on the buy side, where it's like we're looking for that predictability, so you're going to pay a premium for that. Um, it it's also why you would want it as an individual business owner, but it will help you in the M&A world. And we, from like the accounting ops piece, we're going to track that separately. We want to be able to see, like, I want in my client's portfolio, I want to be able to see the reoccurring versus non-reoccurring revenue. It helps me, like, okay, what's my break even point from this business, and how much predictable reoccurring revenue do we have coming in each month? Like, if this project based work went away overnight, am I still breaking even? Am I burning through reserves? So I like to look at that from the financial health of the business as well.
Yeah, I those are financial health, right? Like when I think about financial health, as a business owner, as someone who's managed sales teams most of my life, I'm thinking about risk, and I'm trying to minimize that risk all the time. And so by having recurring revenue as a part of the mix, I've greatly reduced my risk in any given year, any given quarter, as it relates to deals that I have to book or revenue that I'm overseeing. The other component of this, in my opinion, is this is something I see very commonly in upsource clients today. Is big chunk of the revenue is project based, and even a big chunk of their forecast is new revenue and new logos, right? And so, in my experience, um, even the most savvy of salespeople way overestimate their ability from a new logo perspective or new business perspective. And what I say to a lot of our owners is, as a part of their annual forecast, if they're predicting over 25% of their revenue, not bookings, but the revenue in any given year, to be from new logos, I think they're crazy, right? I think that's just way too big of a hurdle for them. They're putting too many eggs in that basket. Ultimately, if you're in the creative services world or in the agency world, this is a business befitting of relationships and farming, right? It's about, how can I go find a few key accounts and build those accounts up over time and earn lots of dollars from them through a myriad of services. Now, that's not everybody. We have some agencies who have many clients, but they tend to sell those repeatable services, which are much more scalable than bespoke one off projects, right? So those are a special case. And by the way, those are also great candidates and also usually represent recurring revenue type firms. We would be one of those as Upsource. We have over 100 clients. Every single engagement we have is on a monthly retainer, right? That was a very conscious decision we made. So we're all recurring revenue. And the great part about that is we don't have a single client that represents over 3% of our business. Now, the downside of that is we don't experience near the growth that a project agency or a project based firm may be able to obtain in any given year. But that's the trade off that we made. For those organizations who are putting tons of pressure on their sales team, their sales leadership, or their owner to go and find tons of new business in any given year, crazy town. I wouldn't spend my time there. I think that if you can find new logos, you can find new business, even if it's recurring, that's icing on the cake. But if it's over 25% of your forecast, I would take a really hard look at yourself and really ask yourself, is that possible? Is that attainable? And then the flip side of that is, I think many of our clients underestimate how much money can be found in current clients. Ultimately, in my experience, creative people are great at doing creative work. They're not so great at asking for money. So you got to have a couple people on your team, whether that's account leadership or PM leadership, whatever that looks like for you, who's really good at asking that client for money or opportunity, or really at the end of the day, asking them what are the key problems that they're facing in their job, in their department, in their business. And you want to be the first name that comes out of their mouth when they ask, what do you think about this? What should I do? How would you approach this? Right? We just had a conversation before this that you had that exact conversation with one of our clients, right? So if you can put yourself in that position with any one client, it opens the door to try and implement recurring services with that client. Without that level of trust, it may be a bit, a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, a couple things I want to hit on. One, like just from over the last year and a half, obviously, like revenue has been a lot harder to go and chase after. And the clients that I've seen that have enlisted their account team to go in and continue to develop and like go, find that revenue that's already in existing logos are like winners and losers of the portfolio. They're the upper echelon of the winners of our current portfolio, where they're going out and the team is enlisted in that. And then from like an operational standpoint, it's a lot easier just to like collect for AR collections, for invoicing, for like the operations piece, having reoccurring where you're just like auto sending this each month. You don't have to think about it. It's so much easier, especially when you're talking about a small business and it's like one late invoice can be make or break payroll. If you can just have those on auto send, a lot easier from that standpoint too.
Meredith, that's an amazing point. And honestly, I didn't even contemplate that as we were setting up this particular topic. Because how many clients do we work with today that have one or two invoices that have been hanging out there for a while and they can make or break their business, make or break payroll, make or break their ability to support their families, right? I mean, it is shocking to me how many clients of our clients refuse to pay their bills on time, and at the detriment of our clients, they are in many cases either afraid to ask or just don't know how to, right? And so again, by default, going into this recurring model, the billing tends to be a little bit more automated. And in our case, we're basically direct withdrawing the money from our clients at Upsourced each and every month. We don't have to worry about it. There is literally, I think over the last 5 years, we had under $1,000 of bad debt expense, because it just doesn't happen. And if you can reduce, again, going back to risk, if you can reduce that risk in your business, it introduces a whole lot more leverage in other areas, which I think is what we all seek as someone who runs a client, a department, or a business. Awesome. Well, I guess nothing else to do it but go out and find some recurring revenue and then sell your agency for a higher multiplier, right? Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
It's not easy, right? I mean, we recognize that it's not easy at all. It takes a lot of effort, and ultimately, I think it's going to take some serious experimentation. But that's what's so great about being a business owner is every day is an experiment, right? We're all trying different things. Some things will work, some things won't. But don't lose sort of that scientific method within your business. I think that process alone is critical. Don't try to get it right out of the gate. You never will. Just try something and improve on it the next time out. And hopefully that helps you to add some recurring revenue to your business. Cool. Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you. Thanks all. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, you know where to find us on YouTube. Follow, leave us comments if you'd like to hear other topics.